are headed. Dilip, great to have you on the show. Good afternoon. Thanks very much for taking out the time. In short, do you think the market is poised for a breakout, or do you think that this up move perhaps looks a bit more convincing than what we've seen over the last 6 to 7 weeks odd, when the markets have been pretty much packed in a range?
Well, I think markets certainly have regained a part of the momentum after the rate cut. And I think probably it looks good for another 150 to 200 points from the current level. I think that is very much possible. But one thing is sure, that in the next 2 to 3 months, we are certainly going to see some more turbulence, because I don't think the last word has been said on what's happening in China. I think we are seeing that even the growth is a little more checkered as far as US is concerned. So there are a lot of ifs and ifs as far as US is concerned. And I think the economic recovery in India, without any doubt, is still continuing at a slow pace. And it is not fair to expect that India will buckle the trend and will keep on growing. So looking at all these factors, I think market perhaps is in for a fair amount of turbulence over the next 2 to 3 months. And if we were to add the FII outflows, I think it sums up a lot of matters. So I would be a little more cautious, a little more apprehensive. And I think, but still in the current momentum, another 150, 200 points looks very much possible.
And where do you think, would leadership come from? I mean, the banks are pretty much in a range again, and now that the rate cut news has put them into a spiral of an uptrend. Where do you think the next spot of interest lies?
I think it will still be the tech stocks and the pharma stocks which will drive the upside. I think Infy and TCS both are expected to come out typically with good results, especially for this particular quarter in every sense. And probably have some fair amount of tailwind in terms of the currency also. But of course, investors, hardcore investors, will be looking for a steady state currency growth in terms of volume and the price realization. But having said that, I think the tech stocks looks pretty interesting even from the current level, and particularly I wouldn't hesitate to name Infosys and TCS. Both of them look pretty good and interesting, and one should try to buy into some of these stocks slightly on a longer term basis. I think even pharma stocks will still continue to rule the roost. I think it will be something like a Cipla or something like Aurobindo Pharma. Maybe Sun will still have 1 or 2 more quarters of pain before they really start the uptrend. Dr. Reddy's probably will still show a better result. But at the same time, even the private sector banks, which continues to get a fair amount of market share, and the major contributor being the PSU banks, I think the private sector banks will still continue to show better performance in terms of NIMs and credit growth.
Okay. Not getting into the specifics, how would you look at this story, Dilip? Both Reliance and ONGC are down today.
Well, I think the report, if as what has been mentioned in the press really comes out, surely I think it will have some more negative impact, and not just from the financial part, because financially I don't think it will be such a huge burden for Reliance, though the amount being mentioned is not small. But all said and done, I think it has much more ramification on the moral grounds. That probably will come in question mark. So, we have seen in the past how some of the FIs have reacted. So I hope it doesn't really percolate down to that, when it comes to taking some action. But I think this is too premature to still talk about it. But based on this, it certainly will mean that Reliance, as what we have seen ever since the bull market has started, Reliance very steadily refuses to participate in that. And now we know that some of the reasons why they are not participating. And I think it will still continue to get capped on the upside for some more time to come.
Oh yes, and the stock of Reliance pretty much tells the story. It's been sluggish and in a range for a while now. Dilip, I believe we'll have to let you go. So just if you could highlight some of your top investment ideas that you believe hold value in a market which is so volatile as now.
Certainly, I think we still talk about the stock-specific approach that we should have in this market. I think, as what I just said, looking at the turbulence, which I think will continue for some more time, it will be better to play a little more safe and stick with names like Infosys, say a Dr. Reddy's, a Cipla, or maybe Aurobindo, or something in say mid caps. Glenmark Pharma looks pretty interesting from the current levels. I think Jubilant Life Sciences is another stock that we are looking at the moment. And we have just come out with a report on All Cargo. I think that is another stock which looks very defensive on a risk return basis. These are just a few of the stocks that probably we are recommending at the moment.
All Cargo Global Logistics, Dilip, that's an interesting one. I'm presuming you are bullish on the logistics space at large.
Oh yes, and but this story is also because they have done an acquisitions overseas, and a good chunk of the income is coming from abroad, but they still have a very good market share even in Europe.
Dilip Bhat, it is always good having you. I look forward to having you more often on this forum. Thank you very much for taking the time out today.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure too.
And that's Dilip Bhat. Always good having him. Some very interesting thoughts, some very interesting ideas always come from him. All Cargo Global Logistics is something that Prabhudas Lilladher has just initiated a call on.